and welcome back, everyone. 2 days ago when I was streaming, I took a look at a Vice documentary that was looking at money mules in London. And while I was watching it, I kept thinking about some of the things I heard about one of the internet's worst misogynists, Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate repeatedly claims throughout his podcasting career that he owns anywhere from 12 to 15 casinos, depending on when you ask him, across Romania. I started to look into this a couple months ago, but I found it challenging to identify which casinos were actually Andrew Tate's, which is interesting. It didn't seem like it should be that hard to find them, but it ended up being pretty dang hard. Now, that's not to say it's impossible. There's some little clues that we're going to go over. You see, there was a Tate Confidential video they put out a couple years ago where they go into one of their casinos that they claim to own. And because they go in, we can see some of the branding surrounding it, which helps us verify a few things, bring some timelines together, and I think might point to Andrew Tate's real relationship with the Romanian Mafia. Yeah, so we're going to start with a clip someone re-uploaded that shows the Tate brothers, both awful human beings, going into one of their casinos to gamble.
This is number 1, and you're going to see about 8 or 9 more openings throughout the year. So let's go lose some money in my own casino.
So the first thing to note about his casinos is they're not like Vegas table game casinos. They're more like those places full of video slot machines, you know? It's mostly slot machines in these video poker machines, not like regular casino. This right here, this branding, the Jackpot Las Vegas, that's going to be important. That's going to help us kind of put them together. I love that Andrew Tate has to have his social media assistant follow him in here, and you can see them like this. It's
How do you?
okay. So that led me to this casino.org article by Philip Conneller, which takes a look at the same thing I was taking a look at. Does Andrew Tate actually own these casinos? And they point to one of the same videos I showed you there, and the branding there leads back to a chain of casinos in Romania called Las Vegas Games. What's interesting about this, about Las Vegas Games, is that Andrew repeatedly claims in these interviews and stuff that he owned them for the Mafia, and that basically he convinced them that he should be allowed to lead these franchises with these 3 people who, I'll show you some clips later, he described as 3 brothers in the Mafia, which is a thing you should never describe your employers as, especially if it's true. Casino.org looked into it, and they really struggled to prove that he ever owned this. And they point out that since 2018, Las Vegas Games appear to be owned by an Armenian group. What's also interesting here is because 2018 is when Romania was referred to the European Court because they weren't complying with EU money laundering legislation. And Romania pushed through a new anti-money laundering law, which dealt with some of the things it was supposed to, but also really focused on limiting non-governmental organizations in a way which at the time was described as somewhat political. So, what's really interesting about this to me is trying to figure out whether or not Andrew Tate ever owned the casinos in the first place, whether he owned them before 2018 and then sold them to this Armenian group and took on a different role, which we're going to get into as we go through this, or whether he's somehow connected to that Armenian group and owns an interest in it somehow. Getting back here, this was a clip of Andrew Tate on one of the many podcasts that was willing to have this awful excuse for humanity on, and he talks a little bit about setting up the casino. So I think this is going to be an important bit of context.
You generate your income. Are you
Right.
fighting? We know you're a fighter.
I was a fighter. So there's my two primary sources. I have three primary sources of income. Wait, 3, 4. I'm thinking of which ones I'll tell you about.
Yeah.
4. I have 4 primary sources of income
Catch that?
that I'm prepared to disclose to the world.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Go ahead.
The first thing is I own some casinos in Romania.
Fantastic.
The story of how I opened them is long, but I'll make it very, very short. There was a guy who owns 400 casinos, 3 brothers, Mafia guys. They own 400 casinos
Yeah, again, you shouldn't say your employer is a mafia guy, even if they are.
throughout Eastern Europe. I came up to him and said, look, I want to do a franchise with you. They said, we're not interested in franchises. We have enough money. We just open them ourselves. We turn over 10 million euros a day. Why do I need your franchise?
Another thing I want to add is his casinos aren't real casinos in the sense of table games and are basically these video slot things, but video slot machines are also good for money laundering. I did a reaction video a while ago that had a bunch of technical issues where I was reacting to Boy in Australia going into the pokies, the video poker sites down in Australia, and they were showing how easy it was for them to launder money. Slot machines are pretty good for that.
Eventually, I came up with a plan. And I said, look, how about this? I'll open up your locations directly next to your biggest competitor. So I'll go to war for you next to the competitor. Worst case, the location doesn't pay any money, but at least it takes money from your competitor. I'll give you a percentage of turnover, so even if it doesn't make profit, you make money. I'll take all the financial risk. They agreed. I started opening up next to their biggest competitor. I actually did something that's kind of funny. What I tried to do was find ones in between their competitor and a Starbucks. I'd open in the middle, and then I'd offer loads and loads of free coffee with a barista and a sexy chick. So instead of going to Starbucks, you could just
Yeah, we saw how he used women in that just one brief video at the casino, which was posted in 2020, which is after the Armenian group took over.
take your money, go get free coffee, and gamble. And I
Nice.
ended up making a bunch of money. I took his competitor down, bang, bang, bang. So I opened them up. That's the first thing. That's the first one of the first ways I made money.
That's what's
Good
up, dude.
business.
Yeah, I did
That's
all right.
tight.
Yeah, I'll do that. Second, my brother runs a company that manages girls on OnlyFans. So a female without instruction is headed for destruction.
He is such an evil human being.
Women are intrinsically lazy.
Yep.
Intrinsically. If you show a man how to make $1,000 in an hour, he'll think, I can make $24,000 a day. If you show a woman how to make $1,000 in an hour, she'll think, I only have to work 3 hours a week because they are fucking lazy.
Stupid.
Untrue and awful. I'm probably not going to be able to say that every time Andrew Tate says something untrue and awful while we're doing this, but untrue and fucking reprehensible.
Bitches.
Lazy.
Starts.
Entitled and fucking lazy.
Yep.
Absolutely. So my brother comes
Hey, you just
along.
had that on deck.
Yeah.
Good job.
So my brother comes along and says, listen, you're making a little bit of money. You're a fine Caucasian of the wrong persuasion. The men think you're handsome. They should pay your ransom. We're going to change it up. You're going to listen to me. I'm going to install some structure and some discipline in your fucking life. And you're going to make some real money. And I'm going to get a percentage. So my brother runs an OnlyFans agency. I'll be honest. So my brother's making $200,000 a month from OnlyFans. Casino's making more than that. And then I've got an online school actually called Hustlers University. I have a university online. And
Really?
Yes. And I teach people how to make money with 8.
In many jurisdictions, you can't legally call yourself a university unless you're accredited. But I don't think false advertising is the most important of Andrew Tate's crimes. The OnlyFans business and the webcam business is what I'm leading into here. When we watched the Vice documentary 2 days ago, they were talking about these money mules and how they would use their accounts and their identities to effectively move the money. The timeline here with when Andrew and Tristan Tate decide to switch more over into the webcam business side, the managing these OnlyFans site, and the alleged human trafficking, where they were taking these people's identification, trapping them, taking over access to their bank accounts and things like that. I think it's plausible that what happened with this here is that at some point, Andrew Tate had some kind of role with the Mafia and the casinos. I think that it's possible, because it kind of makes sense to me, that the webcam business and the OnlyFans business could be extensions of the money laundering. And especially considering the alleged human trafficking. He's bringing in these individuals, taking their identity, preventing them from physically leaving and taking over control of their accounts. There's money flowing in supposedly from the webcam business or from OnlyFans or whatever, money then flowing out with him being able to take this percentage off the top, like the take rate we were talking about in the Money Mule video before. We don't know that Andrew Tate is a money launderer, but I don't think he owns these casinos in the way where he has the full ownership right of them and is just making the profits. This arrangement, especially with the way he keeps bringing up these people he went into business with, feels to me like it was set up for money laundering. Now, that's what I've seen so far. This gets you guys caught up with what I've watched and seen. There's a couple of other videos and clips I want to go over to see if there's more times when I'm pretty sure he talked about this topic, where we can try to see if this supports the thesis that at least part of the goal of his webcam, human trafficking, and OnlyFans business was money laundering, because that is part of my theory.
When did you really start like popping off with all this shit? Like you're right now on the internet, you're fucking everywhere. Like you're like a fucking viral
I'm a
sensation.
virus. I can't be escaped.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Like you're everywhere. So like, when did you start like really popping off?
I've been on the internet a while, man. But,
Doing what? Like, what did you start first ever?
He has. Remember, he's a failed reality TV star. Got kicked off Big Brother after there was a whole sexual assault and physical abuse problem. Yeah.
We're doing on the internet content-wise.
All right, so I've had a YouTube and shit, but it was small for a while. My first money I made on the internet was the webcam thing. I've talked about it in a lot of podcasts at length, but I can explain again how.
Has anyone else noticed Andrew Tate's accent, how much he plays it up, changes from podcast to podcast?
All happened. This is a long time ago. This is maybe 6-7 years ago. So it's before OnlyFans. It's before making money on the internet was such a big thing. Like now, everyone you meet, every 19-year-old meet, does some drop shipping, does da-da-da-da. But back like 7-8 years ago, meeting a guy who made money purely on the internet was quite unusual. Mm-hmm. Everyone had like real jobs and shit. The world's moved on fast. So making money online was not what it was today. And it's a really long story, but fuck it. Fuck it. We're on one of the biggest podcasts in the world. I'll tell it. So I owed some money to some dangerous people.
This is one of the ways organized crime starts to get favors from people, is you get them on the hook. And once they're on the hook, they have to kind of do what you want, or you enact violence on them and people they care about.
We won't tell that story, but
I'm curious about that story, though.
I needed money fast. And I had 70 grand. I needed 100 to stay alive.
Stay alive, huh?
And I wasn't fighting for a while. That was the time, was the only way I was making money. So I thought, you know what? I'm sitting there. I had 70 grand cash in my house. I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? Sometimes, Tate, God just loves you and you just get lucky. You're going to go to the casino and you're going to make the 30.
Yeah, this is a cover story. I obviously don't know it's a cover story, but listen to it. I had 70, I needed 100. I went to the casino and made almost a 50% return. That's a really challenging thing to do at a casino, but narratively, it fits. And remember, Andrew Tate likes to write his own fan fiction. He has this whole story he made up about how he's somehow 5,000 years old, because his real thing is he's basically leading a cult. Like Hustlers University, the War Room, all of this indoctrination, and even his own like kind of mythical story he wrote for himself is because he's basically running a cult, and he's trying to basically use it to financially extract from his fans. And Hustlers University may also be part of a theoretical money laundering scheme. Again, we don't know he's a money launderer, but we'll lay it out as we go through here. He owes a bunch of money to the Mafia right now. He won it at the casino, which he's already implied in other places. The casinos in Romania are controlled by the Mafia. So he goes to the casino, he wins the 30K, and then he goes and opens this webcam business, which eventually leads to these allegations of human trafficking.
So I told Tristan my plan. He's like, bro, what if you don't do it? It's like, bro, if I don't do it, we're fucked anyway. Like, they're going to get us eventually. We're going to end up dead. So I took 20 of the money, went to the casino, and lost it all. So I came home. Now we owe 50.
What did you play in the casino?
Right. So I know the odds. I know that statistically the best odds are blackjack. And I know that you can memorize perfect strategy in blackjack, which I've memorized. So
You can memorize basic strategy, is what it's called, in blackjack, and play at a slight loss to the house for a while. But if you're not counting cards, you're generally not going to get an edge. And so even if you keep your money, you are unlikely to make the kind of returns he's talking about here, right? He's down to what, 50K in capital and needs to 100% that. Blackjack is a hard game to double your money because you're basically playing level. You might get a good run, but like even then, you're not generally going very heavy on each hand. And so it's hard to build up enough of that to double your money, especially when you're playing with this kind of money. It's just hard to hit that kind of statistical hot streak. Some things which are more variant, it's easier to potentially get a sequence of events that leads to that, but you're also way more likely to just bust out.
So I know that you have the statistical best odds in blackjack if you memorize perfect blackjack strategy, which I have done.
It's called basic strategy.
What, counting cards?
It's not counting cards. It's just knowing when to hit, when to stick,
Knowing when
based
to
on
hit,
the
when to stand in
based on the
every
dealer's card
scenario,
showing,
yeah.
etc.
You can look up a table for basic strategy online for anyone who doesn't know this. And it doesn't take very long to memorize it. And so it's a good thing to refresh yourself on before you go to the casino. So this one tells you what the dealer has up, what you have in your hand, whether you hit, split, double, whatever. And so, yeah, that's what he's talking about when he's talking about perfect strategy. It's called basic strategy.
But I prefer roulette. And the reason I prefer roulette, even though the odds are trash, is because I feel like in roulette, I have no control. So if I lose, I feel I have a clearer conscience because I just put the money down. I ain't got anything to do with it. Whereas if I hit when I go bust, it's my fault. And the fault annoys me.
How do you play roulette? Do you just go red or black, or do you do ends?
No, I do numbers. I have like 5 or 6 numbers. I put a bunch on for like 5 numbers, not too many, and I just fucking let it spin.
Lucky numbers?
Yeah, lucky numbers, yeah.
We got to run some steak after.
Yeah, let's do it, bro. I know a lot about gambling. I know a lot about the odds of gambling. I know that there's absolutely nothing you can do on a roulette board that affect the odds of roulette. So single zero roulette is 2.7%, I believe. On a single zero roulette, if you play for long enough, you're going to lose 2.7% of your money over a long enough period of time. It doesn't matter how you bet. It doesn't matter if you bet on one number, all the numbers. It doesn't matter if you bet on red, black, blah, blah, blah. That's the stake built in. So it really doesn't make a difference what you do. So I just bet on these same 5 numbers that are my numbers for personal reasons, and that's it. So I lost 10 grand on roulette.
Down to 40K now. Needs to make 150% of his principal if we believe his story to get back to 100K.
Oh, fuck it, got up the odds, went to blackjack, stuck to perfect strategy, got wiped out, got fucked. Came home, now I'm 50 G's down.
He only had, his math isn't adding up here. He had 70G, he needed 30 more. He says he comes home 50 down. Is that what he's saying at this point? So he's got 20K left and needs 80K to get to 100K. Like, that's not really feasible.
So I said to Tristan, we got a week to pay this money. I'm not going to leave my bedroom until I find a way to make 50 grand. So he's like, all right, cool. Because I think was it Newton? One of the scientists was a really weird guy. And if he had a scientific problem, he'd sit in his room and not leave until he worked it out. So I decided to become Newton. Maybe it was him, maybe it wasn't him. So I'm sitting in my room. So I started thinking, okay, let me approach this logically. I'm a very intelligent man. Let's do this. So what do I need? Let's start at the very beginning. What do I want? Money. What is money? So I started researching what is money. What is money? How does it work? Federal Reserve, fractional reserve banking. And
if he shills Bitcoin during the next 8 minutes of this video, I'm going to slap myself in the face.
Interest, inflation, da-da. And by the time I got to the end of about a day and a half's research on money, I was really pissed off because I realized that money's bullshit. It's not even fucking real, and I don't have any. So now I'm double mad because I'm like, this is fucking imaginary trash linked to nothing, and I ain't got none. So I was really pissed. So I'm watching all these fucking videos and doing all this research on like assets, liabilities, blah, blah, blah. And then I got a piece of pen and paper. I've been taking notes the whole time. And I got to the point where I was trying to write down my assets. So I got a BMW. What's that worth? 22 grand something. I had a rented apartment. I'm big and strong, but I'm already fighting. I'm smart, but I'm already trying to make money. I'm just writing down everything I have. And I had like these 5 girlfriends from fighting all around the world, right? So I'd fly to Paris. I'd knock someone out. I'd fuck a ring girl. And then she'd be like, oh, you're the champ. You're the champ. I'm like, yeah, I love you too, baby. And I'd leave. And they'd think like I was this big baller in London. I mean, I had an apartment and a nice car. My life was fine. But I also had some problems from a previous life, which I can't talk about on the internet. And they were still in love with me. So I was texting all these bitches, whatever, whatever. So I had these 5 girlfriends in these 5 different cities all around the world. So I thought, well, are the girls an asset? Well, they
No, they're human beings.
have beauty. Beauty's valuable. So I guess they're an asset. Maybe they can like lend me the money or get jobs and pay me the money or some shit. Because I need to pay this money. I'll pay them back, but I need to pay this money. So I wrote them down. Anyway, as I was thinking, what can can these chicks help me in any way? One of the girls offered to lend me like 5 G's or something. It didn't really help. And I'm sitting there thinking, can these chicks help me in any way? And I'm not a ruthless person. I'm really not an evil person that they try and paint me on
Yes, you are.
the internet. I am not the guy who's going to put a bitch on the track. I'm not the guy who's going to hard pimp a bitch, make her fuck dudes. I'm not that guy. I don't like those kind of things. I don't want anyone to touch my chick. Strip club, maybe, but then to open a strip club, you need money, right? How the fuck you open a strip club with no money? You need to build a strip club. It takes money. So I'm sitting there, and I'm Googling on the internet, like strip clubs, or I was Googling like remote jobs, London, trying to see if there was some remote work I could tell my girlfriends to do online remotely to get the money. And I could tell the guys, look, I'll have the money by this day. And then between me and them and more of the incomes, I could pool the money and get the money, boom, boom. And while I'm looking up remote jobs, in the corner, one of them little videos comes up, talk to live girls now.
What fucking site was he on looking at remote jobs in London that had a cam girl ad? That's not Indeed. That's not Monster.com.
You know those fucking things are on the porn sites.
Which leads me back to this is all a fucking cover story. He lost all his money, owed a bunch, and was given an assignment.
I've never been a porn guy. I still am, not to this day. I don't see the attraction in porn. I've never really been a porn watcher. I can really state under God, I've watched less than an hour of porn in my life. I don't find it interesting. I don't watch it. I don't go on the website.
You never ripped porn?
Never. It's not my thing. It's just boring. So I've never been a porn guy. So I didn't know how big like chatting to girls on the internet was. So I clicked on this advert. There's some chick sitting there talking to dudes, bring money on one of these websites. And I was like, I wonder how much she's getting. So then I start looking into this webcam thing, and I realized these girls are making bank. These girls are making fucking money. So that was the plan. I was like, all right, cool. The girls are going to be webcam girls. So I originally thought I'll set them all up remotely, and they'll do it all from home and send me the money. But the problem with that, I'll have one as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Gabe, can I get
I'll
a
have one. Thank you, bro.
I'm serving a couple of, so I'll give you
Cool. So, but then I thought, you know what? I'm going to be teaching all these girls how to make as much money as they want. Are they really going to give me the money?
He needs the control. I bet this is where the part where he either talks about basically forcing them to come to Romania, where he then allegedly took away their identification, so they ended up stuck in Romania with him, or he's going to talk about basically taking control of accounts open in their name. That's my guess. I haven't seen this, remember?
You know, am I going to end up with the money, or is this going to go bad for me? Plus, now they need tech. I'm going to have to send them money to buy tech. Do I really trust the bitch to send the money? Is she going to work hard? Is she going to set it up right? This might all go wrong. So the only answer is I got to bring them all to me, and I got to be in charge. So I flew all 5 chicks in. None of them knew about each other. Nothing. Thank you. Sat down at a nice restaurant. Me, Tristan. He flew 2. I flew 5, 7 girls. So look, about to get rich. This is my plan. I'm going to do this. I put a spin on it, of course. Big boss, big G, got big opportunity. This money's been invested. I've always wanted you to live with me. Now's your chance. You can leave Paris. You can leave Croatia. You can leave whatever. You come live in London with me. You're going to do this. You're going to be rich. I'm going to be rich. Blah, blah, blah. Put a spin on it. You're all going to live here. Of my 5 girls, obviously they all kicked off. Who's this bitch? Who's this bitch? Who's this bitch? I'm like, look, you're all mine. Get over it. Talk about money now. This is a higher purpose. But you fucked her. Yeah, I fucked her. Who cares? We're talking about money. We're talking about millions. Get over it. Some of them got upset. They'll start arguing, whatever. 3 left, 2 stayed. And that was the beginning of the empire. The two who stayed, bought some laptops, sat them down, said, look, you're going to get this much percent, I'm going to get this much percent. Wasn't exploitation. They wanted to do it. They were like, yeah, this could fucking make some money. All right, well, cool, let's try it. And me and these two chicks started the company from the ground up. And we started doing 15, 16, 17-hour days. Now, when the girls were at the computer working, I was at the computer the entire time. Because another thing I learned from doing this business, I learned something about women, is that they are intrinsically, I don't want to use the word lazy, but I will. They have no interest in world conquest. They want to be comfortable. If you show a woman how to make $1,000 an hour, she'll think, I can work
He's doing the same fucking line.
Completely. And OnlyFans has proven that.
It's proven it. But we made this much today. Not enough. There's more money in the world. It's ours. All of it's ours. I got to the point where I was so obsessed with it. I'd be sleeping in bed, because the chicks would sleep with me one each side. I'd wake up to go piss. And by the time I finished pissing, I was awake enough to say, all right, 2 hours sleep. That's enough. Get up. Back.
That's fucking awful. That's an incredibly bad thing to do.
Back to work. We're going to fucking kill it. So me and these two chicks, and they were about it, right? Because they're getting money as well. Me and these two chicks, we just start fucking hammering the webcam game. Problem is, another thing I knew, when I talk about what women don't find, that women don't know what men find attractive, earlier on in this podcast, everything I said, the webcam company I was running proved that perfectly. The women who were on stream were beautiful, but they didn't have a fucking clue what to say. They were saying all the wrong shit, man. Every day they were saying the wrong shit, and we were losing customers. Everything I was telling you earlier about wanting to be innocent. They're saying, oh, I've been here, I've been there. I'm like, shut the fuck up. You're talking to some dude. He doesn't want to hear where you've been. He knows you can't be a 10 talking about how you've been to Dubai to some fucking dude in Minnesota who's fat. He ain't gonna ever believe that he's gonna get you that way. You gotta lie to him. You gotta lie to him. She's like, lie and say what? Say that you've never been anywhere because you don't trust men. You can't find a man who's serious. Make him think that if he's serious about you, that nothing. What I did is I unplugged their keyboards and plugged a new one in from me behind the screen.
Well, that was annoying. I wasn't expecting to get copyrighted on a poor quality uploaded clip of the Full Send podcast, but at least we can hit some of the points I wanted to as we're wrapping this up, which is to say that I think he was very desperate for money, because I think he may have ended up in debt to some people he should not have been in debt to. And like, what I keep coming back to is maybe he's just, an awful human trafficker, misogynist, whatever. But part of what's complicating it for me is the fact that like we keep hearing about him taking people's identification and stuff in order to have this. And when we were doing that stream 2 days ago, we were talking about how they need those identification from people to get access to their accounts. I think it's very plausible that what we were seeing with Andrew Tate's webcam business first and then the OnlyFans business were potentially, though obviously we can't prove it, ways to launder money. Because they can take all this money in, they can fake the numbers. It's all in these, they can pass whatever money they need through the webcam business, pass whatever percentage they need to out to the sex workers, make sure Andrew gets enough that he doesn't overly incriminate himself, though apparently that's a foolish strategy. And I think what's interesting about this is Hustlers University potentially serves as kind of the same thing. You don't have direct access to people's bank accounts in the same way you do as if you physically bring them to a location and take their passport. But again, the apparent size of it compared to what you would expect has this kind of strange dynamic in it, right? Where Hustlers University, because it's this multi-level marketing scheme, ends up with all of these tons and tons and tons of people at the bottom, all of whom are supposedly getting these transactions, funneling it up. And again, just because of the nature of the structure, it is possible to push money through there that isn't really interested in owning Hustlers University. But you take then the money out of the Hustlers University entity and it's clean money, right? It's gone up through this payment thing. That's not, again, necessarily what was happening with Andrew Tate, but it is, I think, possibly what was happening with Andrew Tate. I think that considering the difficulties we've already had with copyright and keeping the stream working, we're going to wrap it up there. I've been considering doing a full video on Andrew Tate. I, for now, have chosen not to because he's been arrested. He's hopefully going to end up in prison and no longer be an issue for most of the world. But like this financial aspect, like the claims around his businesses was interesting to me because he claims to be making a completely unrealistic amount of money. And as I look at it and as I look at like his transactions with Bitcoin for the war room, look at these casinos which are controlled by this strange Armenian group, and like they're not even really casinos, they're slot machines basically. It seemed to me that many of the businesses he set up are the types of businesses money launderers set up. We don't know that this awful excuse for a human being is a money launderer, but he behaves like one. I think with that, we're going to wrap this up. I appreciate the people who stayed after that little copyright snafu. And yeah, thank you very much for joining in.